Hello, everybody. Benga Latunji here. We want to be looking at the board of directors, still of corporate governance. But there is no how we talk about the board of directors, we talk about corporate strategy, we talk about corporate governance without looking at the board of directors. And when we are looking at the board of directors, we must talk about at least these 7 items on the list. The role of the board. What is the role of the board? What is the job description of every member of the board of directors? We must look at the composition of the board. We must look at the role of the chairman of the board, the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, and the NEDS, non-executive directors. We must look at the directors and the law. We must not forget that the law is the backbone of corporate governance and regulation generally. We must look at induction, training, and performance evaluation of the directors, even of the board. So, evaluation, training, performance evaluation, and the like is not limited to management level alone. Even for the board, we must consider and perform evaluation of their activities. We must look at and talk about the need for the board committees. When we are talking about delegation of power, we must talk about board delegating and having committees. So we must look at the board committees and talk about their role and function. Then we must talk about audit and corporate governance. When we are talking about corporate governance, evaluation is key, and the tool and vehicle of evaluation is an audit being performed. So now, let us discuss major jugular things that we must discuss under the listed items. There are still more things that we must discuss under these items. And as we go into it, if you are just joining us, we recognize your presence. GGM's Associate is a platform that educates and informs people how to build business, how to pass exam, and how to build a corporate governance culture. Like us, comment, click the notification button, subscribe to us. We are building the community together for corporate governance, for business building, for passing and become better in accountancy industry. You can comment, engage us. So now let us go into the discussion in details. So we must talk about the role of the board. The role of the board. So we must talk about the code of corporate governance. What the codes have to say as regards the role of the board. Also some institutions about corporate governance, what they have to say, some associations. Then we must talk about delegation of power within a corporate organization. We must talk about the code. We must talk about the decision making and the monitoring of the decision and the monitoring role of the board. We must talk about types of the board. We have the unitary board, we have the 2 tiers board structure. Then we must talk about the composition of the board, and when we are talking about the composition of the board, we must talk about the size. How large should a board of directors be, or how small, either two. So how large or how small, and why large, why small? What are the disadvantages of being too large, and what are the advantages of being large? What are the disadvantages of being too small, and what are the advantages of being small? So we must talk about the executive and non-executive directors, even the independent directors. What are the differences in all these three, and how can they work together to make a stronger board of directors. Then we must talk about the board balancing the composition of the board, especially when it concerns the independent directors. Then we must talk about the diversity, that is the diversity within the board. Then we must talk about this latest thing in vogue, that is women should join. Women are good also to be part of the board. So board composition and women contribution within the board too. Then we must talk about the roles of the chairman, the chief executive officer, and the NEDS, that is non-executive directors within the board, the separation of their role and where they can come together and do things in common, the separation of power between the chairman and the chief executive officer, the role of the chief executive officer, then the role of the board chairman. And we are going to discuss too when the chairman of the board of management could be the chairman or relate directly to the chairman of the organization, that is the supervisory chairman. We are going to talk about the role of non-executive directors. We are going to talk about the appointment of non-executive directors. Then we are going to talk about the criticism about the non-executive directors being on the board. Then we will be talking about the directors and the law, that is the regulatory and legal framework. We'll be talking under it the powers and rights of directors, the appointment, the election and removal of directors. We'll be talking about the duties and the legal obligations of directors. We'll be talking about share dealings by directors. We'll be talking about the disqualification of directors. We'll be talking about changing directors, and we will examine the board of directors and NOCLA, that is non-compliance to regulation. Then we will move on to induction of new directors, training of new directors, and performance evaluation of the board of directors generally. And under it, we'll be looking at the appointment and induction of new directors, the training and professional development of directors. We are going to look at the performance evaluation and assessment of their performance or their performances. So still on corporate governance and the board of directors. So this is going to be series in series. We'll be looking at the need for board committees. We'll be looking at the nature of the board committee. We'll be looking at the main board committees, and we'll be looking at the series for having board committees. Then we will move on to audit and corporate governance. And under audit and corporate governance, we will be looking at external audit, internal audit, external audit and corporate governance, internal audit and corporate governance, audit committee membership, and the like. So the board of director is a series on its own, and it's going to be series in series under corporate governance. So if you're a business owner, please, you need to subscribe to us. If you're a student of accountancy, or you want to take your business higher or learn to use this knowledge in the nearest future, James Associates is a force to reckon with when it comes to corporate governance. Click the notification button, like us, subscribe to us. James Associates, we are value to life, we are value to your businesses.